to the world, blessings and peace. Liturgical light in a cultural space. Cutting through the clutter is David L. Gray. In pursuit of truth, the Dominican way. From warring to the world, blessings and peace. Liturgical light in a cultural space. Cutting through the clutter is David L. Gray. In pursuit of truth, the Dominican way.
It's David L. Gray. It's David L. Gray. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. David L. Gray. It's David L. Gray. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please.
From warring to the world, blessings and peace. Liturgical light in a cultural space. Cutting through the clutter, it's David L. Gray. In pursuit of truth, the Dominican way.
It's David L. Gray. It's David L. Gray. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. David L. Gray. It's David L. Gray. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please.
From warring to the world, blessings and peace. Liturgical light in a cultural space. Cutting through the clutter, it's David L. Gray. In pursuit of truth, the Dominican way. To the world.
Welcome in. It's David O. Gray. Glad to have you here, man, for another show. Man, I got a pack one for you today. It's packed. We're talking about a lot of things on this Monday live stream. First, we're going to get into Mike Gendron. He's this Catholic hater, this Protestant pastor that is obsessed with the Catholic Church, drinking haterade, drinking obsession juice. His life is to evangelize Catholics, and he's not really good at it. He's really bad. He tells a lot of lies. We're going to get into one of those lies, refute it real quick, show how the fathers of the church do that, break him down. And then we're going to get into the demonic LGBTQ pride invasion of the Vatican. People are up here calling it a pilgrimage. It wasn't a pilgrimage. It was an invasion. They invaded the Vatican, as demons do. We're going to talk about that. And Pope Leo XIV, his response to it, his engagement with that demonic invasion. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to get into Saint Carlo Acutis as well along the way. TikTok has a deadly trend right now. TikTok always has some deadly trends. Keep your kids off of TikTok or monitor it, especially if your kids are just like weak in mind or followers. Right, they don't have any original thoughts, right? So we need to talk about this really deadly trend that's going around on TikTok. Also, I think in North Carolina there's this deadly train attack. We're going to talk about that. That was pretty scary. Woman just gets on the train, moments later is stabbed by a man who could have been possessed by a demon. It doesn't really look good. Florida's vaccine mandate is then up next. And then lastly, we're going to end our show with Jasmine Crockett. I've talked about Jasmine a few times. But a lot of people don't, they're trying to figure out, why does she seem to do this thing where she sounds like she's, speaking black? Like, how does she do that? What is that? And we've seen this before with Kamala. We've seen it with Obama. What's this thing they do? I'm going to explain that to you. It's something that, if you're not familiar with the Black community, what this whole thing is, what's going on here. We should talk about it so we can explain and understand it better. But that's the show. This is David O'Gray. Glad to have you in, taking your comments along the way, of course. And so make sure you hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that sub button. We got some friends here. Yeah, Crumb, you're awesome, David. Looking forward to this one. I appreciate it. So am I. So let's get this show on the road. Let's get this thing going. Let's get this thing moving. You know, last week on our last live stream, last Monday, we played a video from a Catholic content creator, convert, just an amazing lady, Nora. She has a channel as well. And she had a guy on there. Can't even recall his name right now. But he was obsessed about Catholicism. And we played some clips from there and was talking about how it was his video that really converted her to the faith. And she has a new video out now of the same guy, and talking more about how his videos, he's up here hating on Catholicism, again, drinking haterade, just obsessed about Catholicism. And she's talking more about how his videos is really what got her interested and got her curious about the Catholic Church. Pastor Brett Meador, his name, Pastor Brett Meador, right? And so here's another video from Nora.
Through this video, I'm going to be playing some clips from the same sermon, but I'm also going to include some other sermons where he is bashing Catholics. Again, just to prove that this wasn't just a one-time thing. The beginning of this sermon grabbed my attention instantly because I was shocked about what he was saying. And while I understand the point he was trying to make, the way that he did it was very distasteful and just disrespectful. All right, so I want you to watch this clip. He's sitting here talking about Catholics, trying to make this point that they're idolaters, they're worshiping graven images. So take a look.
If you ever wondered what Jesus looks like, I brought my picture. I printed this on my printer at home. Well, is this really what Jesus looked like? Some of you are like, I think it is. I've seen that picture before. Well, let me just tell you, this is not Jesus. Southern California, yo, pizza dude, yeah. And he's got highlighted blonde hair. Like, look at that, this is amazing. And it's got the traditional glow behind his head, you know, the little glow. Now, I do appreciate this guy didn't put a plate. Why do those people in like Greek Orthodox and some Catholics put plates behind their heads? I think that looks kind of dumb. But because this is not Jesus, and it's just a piece of paper that I printed from my printer, why should I care about this picture? Like why wouldn't I just tear this page up? So if I were to rip this right now, some of you, I see it on your face right now. Now you say, but Brett, you shouldn't rip, don't tear Jesus. This is not Jesus. This is a piece of paper. Now, if this is a holy picture that we should not rip, why wouldn't I print 10 billion of these if they're that valuable and holy? This is, man, we got to be careful, because what we could do is make the mistake of actually making something holy that's not even really holy. It's just a piece of paper. So, but before I do that, should I rip this picture of Surfer Jesus? I'm going to tell you 2 reasons why I'm not going to. Reason number 1, I have another service after this. I got to save this.
All right, now that's the one other part of that specific sermon. It is really long, but that was the beginning part, and that's where he really focuses on making fun of Catholics and stuff like that the most. I want you to take a
And so that's another clip. And check out Nora Brain. You can follow her on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to her channel. She's producing some really good content. Really exciting lady. I'm glad to see her channel grow. And she has some, like I said, this obsession that these Protestants have with the Catholic Church. And as I said last show, you'll never go to a Catholic church, ever hear a homily from a Catholic priest about Protestants. They're not that interesting. First of all, their religion is based upon hating our religion. Their religion is based upon believing the opposite of what we believe. It's not Protestantism even, it's not even a religion. It's an anti-religion. It's a Krispy Kreme donut. That's what it is. If you ever had a really good pastry, a really just a fine pastry, you know what a donut is. You know what it looks like, what it feels like, what it tastes like. That's not Krispy Kreme. Krispy Kreme is just some yeast with a lot of sugar poured on top. That's not a donut. That's diabetes. First of all. And that's what Protestantism is. It's just diabetes. It sounds sweet. It's emotional, right? It sounds good. A lot of emotion going around. It's not serious. It's not serious. It's not a religion. It's anti-religion. It's a Krispy Kreme donut, right? But this obsession they have about speaking about Catholicism is crazy, and just lying about it. There's a price to pay about lying about Christ and his church. It's definitely a price to pay. And shame on people who fall for this stuff. But now you have this guy, Mike Gendron. He's who we're gonna like focus in on today. This Catholic hater. Let me bring him up here so you can kind of what he looks like, right? And then we'll get into his bit here, right? So let me give you a brief introduction to who he is if you never heard of Mike Gendron. So he was, raised Catholic. He's one of those people. We spent about 30 years in the Catholic Church, apparently never really understanding what it is because it keeps flirting with Protestantism. Like, if you're truly Catholic, if you truly understand and you love what the church teaches, you're in love with the Holy Eucharist, you don't flirt with Protestantism. You don't find yourself at Protestant churches, Protestant weddings, Protestant anything. You don't find yourself hanging out with protesters. That's weird. Why would you hang out with people who hate your faith and your religion, who lie about it, whose religion was created as an opposition to yours? So you don't do that. But he's finding himself, keep flirting with the Protestant religion, finding himself in Protestant Bible studies, and no wonder why Satan eventually deceives him, and that seed really says he keeps flirting with it. Alcoholics don't keep going to bars if they want to leave. Right? And men with problems with sex addictions, you just don't keep opening up apps and hanging around loose women. No, because things happen, right? These things happen. If your person's struggling with weights or something like that, you don't keep going to Krispy Kreme donuts. You just don't. But he does, right? He's not really strong and really committed. So he had this, what he calls a theological shift in 1981 after attending an evangelical seminar. Why? Why was he there, right? So then he came to believe there that the Bible, he says, not the Bible, not church tradition or the sacraments. This is the supreme authority for truth and salvation. It's not even what the church believes, that tradition and sacraments are the supreme authority. And so he doesn't even say, so he asks, I believe the opposite of that. I believe in just the Bible that the Catholic Church put together in 381. Less 7 books. That's what I'm going to believe. That's the position he takes. And so this conviction, he says, led him to leave the Catholic Church in 1985 and pursue formal theological training at Dallas Theological Seminary, DTS. And so then he created a ministry in 1992 called Proclaiming the Gospel Ministry. So it's his evangelical outreach program to Catholics. So he specifically has a ministry that's focused on poaching Catholics, attacking Christ and his church, and trying to and to mislead poorly catechized Catholics. That's his target audience. Catholics who have been poorly catechized, who he can easily deceive. And so he wants to equip and to share this ministry with other evangelicals so that they can also go poach and lie and steal Catholics away from Christ in his church. And, the same Protestant grift, he wants to promote salvation through the lie, the heresy of faith alone, apart from God's grace through the sacraments. And, the Protestant thing, they say, oh, Catholics believe in works. He said, oh, that's this thing. You always want to say, oh, you don't have to do anything. You just have to, just believe. Once saved, always saved. That whole crap. So seminars, books, yada, yada, yada. But like all ex-Catholics, you ever know these ex-Catholics that you come across? All these ex-Catholics are, just kind of a little dumb. Right? And I say that charitably. Just a little dumb, a little touched. Not very intelligent, really cursory surface level when it comes to intelligence. The elevator isn't really going fully to the top with these people. Although he has a Master of Arts degree from his DTS, Dallas Theological Seminary, that says more about Dallas Theological Seminary than it says about him. He's like a really embarrassment to the school, but it's probably like all the people that school is putting out. So let's get into this video. And so you can kind of see like how dumb this guy is and how easily it is to refute his arguments. In this video, I'm just going to refute the whole thing about papal infallibility, his denial that Peter is the first of the apostles, who is who we call the Pope, the Bishop of Rome. The Bishop of Rome is the head of the universal church. And he gets into these arguments saying, using Bible alone, that Peter isn't who the Catholic Church believes he is. So we're going to refute these real quick. But first, let me play the video.
For all matters of faith and practice. Scripture proves that Peter was not infallible. We see that in Matthew 16:23. We also see it in Galatians 2:11-14. Paul had to confront Peter to his face. For what reason? He wasn't acting in line with the truth of the gospel. And what was Paul's response? Did he submit to Paul, or did he submit to Scripture? Scripture was his authority, and he stood corrected. So why is the Bible the supreme authority for truth? 2 Timothy 3:16. All Scripture is inspired by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and training in righteousness. The authors claim they spoke for God. Thus saith the Lord occurs nearly 500 times in scriptures. What does it mean the scripture is profitable for reproof? Well, to reproof is to expose error. And we see that the scriptures are also useful for correcting error. So once you expose it with the Word of God, then you use the Word of God to correct it. So it is our supreme authority for all matters of faith and practice. So who is the rock in Matthew 16:18? This is the most important verse in Roman Catholicism. The whole church stands and falls on this verse. You know what's happened here. Jesus has just asked the question, who do men say that I am? And Peter said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said, this wasn't revealed to you by man, but by my Father in heaven. And Peter, upon this rock, I will build my church. What did Peter just do? He made a profession of faith, divinely inspired by God as to who Jesus is. And everyone who makes that same profession of faith is part of Christ's church. It is upon the profession of Peter that Jesus would build his church. But Roman Catholics declare that Jesus was pointing to Peter as the rock. What does the Bible say? Well, Peter knew that Jesus was the rock. All we have to do is look at his first epistle, chapter 2, verses 7 and 8. Paul said the rock was Christ, 1 Corinthians 10:4. God was their rock, Psalm 78, verse 35. And so the Bible has an answer for Roman Catholics. Jesus is the rock. He is the foundation. By the way, right after Peter made that profession of faith, you know what happened? Jesus said, before I build my church, I must first go and die for my church. And Peter said, Lord, may it never be. He calls Jesus Lord, and then he rebukes him. Was Peter infallible at that moment, where Jesus had to correct him? Not at all. And so right there, where Catholics point to Peter being their first pope and an infallible pope, we see that we can show them that the rock was Christ. Does the Bible give any warnings about trusting men? Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. We should not trust people like Mike Gendron. All right, that again, as I said in the opening monologue, as you can see, he's not very bright, right? But you don't have to be a bright person, a smart person, a very intelligent person to establish a cult, to establish a following. You don't. Only thing you have to be is smarter than the people who follow you, right? People don't follow people who are not intelligent as them. Like, people who are, say, like a leadership level of, say, 7. Your leadership ability is like a 7. You can't get an 8, a 9, or a 10 to follow you. You can't. 10s follow 10s, 9 follow 10s. 5, 4, 5, 3, 2, 1s, they'll follow a 7, right? It's the same with intelligence, right? People don't follow people who are dumb, not intelligent people, right? So even though he's not that bright, the elevator isn't going all the way to the top. He has a following. There's people who believe him. There's people who leave the Catholic Church because they hear like the lies that this person tell. So let's go ahead and break this down real quick. He also says in the video, I don't know if it's this video, but it's another that I heard. Get this. He says that he makes this distinction we hear time and time again with Protestants. They'll refute that Peter is not who the Catholic Church he says he is because he's not truly the rock. Because they say if you look at the Greek, when Jesus is saying that you are Peter and upon this rock I'll build my church, the Greek text used two types of rocks. First it says you are Peter, which they say is Petros, and then upon this rock Petra I will build my church. So 2 different types of rocks. It's like one is masculine, one is feminine. They'll get into this whole thing. Mike Gendron does this, and this is really like the first clue that you're not really dealing with someone who has either really studied this subject, maybe they're just repeating what they heard, or again, they're not really that intelligent. Because guess, like, chat, raise your hand if you think Jesus spoke Greek. Just raise your hand, chat. Or keep your hand raised if you think Jesus also spoke Latin. Like you think he said the Lord's Supper in Latin. Raise your hand. Let me know who's here. No, Jesus came to the people of the Israelites, his people, the community of Jews, and he spoke to them in a way that they could understand, which is Aramaic. That's the language he spoke in. He dressed like them, he smelled like them, he looked like them. These are the people he came to. That's the language that he spoke in. When he wanted to speak in some sort of code, he would use a parable and he would explain it. He did not speak in Greek. So what he would have said, his phrase would have been, you are Kepa. And upon this Kepa, I will build my church. You are Kepa. And upon this Kepa, I'll build my church. And in Aramaic, there is only one word for rock, and that's Kepa. It's not 2. So that's just a crazy argument, trying to make a distinction of the Greek, right? And also along the same line, here's another thing. This is, I guess, a little more complicated. You had to probably pay attention in high school into English lit class, some sort of English class. Probably not even high school, probably 3rd grade, 4th grade. You start learning this about sentence structure. And you learn about pronouns, and you learn about demonstrative pronouns. So if I were to say to you, Chad, if I were to say to you, hey, I just made some really great spaghetti. And this spaghetti, it's pretty spicy. What spaghetti would you think I'm speaking to? What spaghetti would you think I was referring to? Was it that spaghetti I just mentioned to you that I just made? Or was it a spaghetti that you made or that I made yesterday? Right? Which one, Chad? Or if I were to say to you, hey, I just bought a car. It's a Maybach. Hey, I just bought this Maybach. And this Maybach is fully loaded. Which Maybach would you think I was referring to? The one I just mentioned in that same sentence? Or some other Maybach? This is the problem with not understanding how the English sentence structure is works. Of course, when Jesus says, you are Kepa, and upon this Kepa, I will build my church. The demonstrative pronoun there is this. A demonstrative pronoun refers to the noun that was mentioned just previously in the same sentence. That's how sentence structures work. Now, Mike Gendron, he would say, well, what Jesus was talking about was the confession that Peter made. That's the demonstration. He wants to say the demonstrative pronoun, this, refers to some previous sentence, a confession, which Jesus doesn't say is what he's talking about. So if Jesus was saying, he was talking about a confession, Jesus said, you didn't hear this from the Son of God. Revealed. This is not come from you. This is revealed by the Son of God. The Father revealed this to you. And upon this revelation from the Father, I will build my church. Upon this confession, I'll build my church. And it's really strange that these people say they believe in sola scriptura, scripture alone, but they just make things up as they go along. Nowhere in scripture does Jesus say that he's referring to Peter's confession or what was revealed to him from the Father. No, his demonstrative pronoun, this, is referring to Peter himself. You are Kepa, and upon this Kepa, I built my church. Imagine Jesus and the other apostles there. Remember, this whole thing was prefaced with Jesus saying, who do you say that I am? Speaking to all of his apostles. It was kind of like, I don't know, a little poll or something that was he's going on. He's talking in chat. Hey, chat, who do you think that I am? And his apostles there. And some say John, some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah. And he turns to Peter and he says, but who do you say that I am? Right. And so other people were there. And so this is why he says, this is why he used the demonstrative pronoun, this. Right? He's saying, bless you are Kepa. And guys, upon this Kepa, I will build my church. Hey, I just made some really good spaghetti. Family, wife, daughters. I just made some really good spaghetti. And this spaghetti is spicy. Right? Because he's speaking to, there's a group of people there. So that's why he says, yeah, this. Right. So imagine that. And I think one thing that it shocks me that Protestants overlook is the whole fact of renaming. In scripture, there are only a few people who received a new name from God. Seven. In the Protestant Bible, there are 1,940 names mentioned. Distinct people, 1,940. And in the Catholic Bible, of course, is like over 2,000. Right? So in that over 2,000 names mentioned, only 7 received a new name from God. This is rare air. This doesn't happen. Mathematically, that's 0.35%. 0.35% of people in the Bible were renamed by God. Just 7. Rare air. A tiny fraction. And so this is something significant that we have to really pay attention to, that Protestants just overlook. Oh, Peter was nothing special. He wasn't anything special. He was just a guy. Right? But when Jesus renames Simon Peter the Kepa. In fact, let me pull up a slide here to really show you how rare this is. All right, so here's a slide here. Let me blow it up for you. You look over here to the right. These are the 7 people who received a new name from God. Abram to Abraham, he goes from his name being exalted father to father of many nations. So when God renames you, when God gives you a new name, your name is always somehow related to what your name was before, right? So he kind of like doubles your mission. Your mission was this. Remember, there was a time in a lot of cultures where, and still is today, where your name actually means something. It isn't vanity. It isn't your father, your parents name you something, like Mercedes or something like that, something they like. No, your name means something. Your name has a meaning. So when God renames you, he takes your given name from your parents and he adds on to that. He increases your mission, right? So in this case, Abraham, who's exalted father, goes to father of many nations. Right? He doubled his trouble. Sarah goes to Sarah from princess, just a princess, to mother of nations. Jacob goes to Israel. He goes from being a deceiver to one who just struggles with God. He's wrestling with God. Simon, who name he hears, to Kepa, meaning foundation, meaning rock. So he hears, and this is really a great point that I think Protestants really miss, something that I think is really beautiful here. So his name is Simon, one who hears God. Hear God. And this is why he hears God. He knows that Jesus is the Son of God because he hears God. And then he receives a mission because he hears God. He becomes and acts on that hearing. He becomes the Jesus builds his church on him. Hosea becomes Joshua from salvation to God saves. Solomon to Jedediah. Peaceable to beloved of the Lord. Saul to Paul. So these are the 7 people who were renamed by God. Rare air. And it's something Protestants miss. And then the last point I would mention that Mike Gendron would like to overlook and that he would like to lie about. He said that he made a point in that video, remember, that he's trying to attack papal infallibility without understanding what papal infallibility actually is. So he points to say, well, Jesus said, G built the church upon Peter's confession, which is a lie. And then he says, right after Peter made his confession, he denied Jesus. And Jesus had to say, get behind me, Satan. He also brings up when Paul challenged Peter over ignoring the Gentiles, seeing the favor of the Jews. And Peter challenges him on that. And he says, these are 2 instances that show that Peter was just fallible. So how could he be fallible, but also infallible? How could he be the Pope? And this is, again, slow bus level of intelligence. Because that's not what the Catholic Church believes, that papal infallibility is something personal. So the Catholic Church never teaches, has never taught that Peter or any Pope is somehow personally infallible. Like they can't make just mistakes that humans make, or they cannot teach error, that they're always perfect on faith or morals. No, but the Catholic Church teaches that when the Pope, and it's like 4 conditions, I'll go over them real quick. When he fulfills these 4 conditions of his magisterial authority of teaching, he's protected from error by the Holy Spirit. And so what he does is that he mistakes Peter's just personal mistakes that he may have made with papal infallibility. So here's the 4 conditions for papal infallibility to occur. First, the Pope must be speaking ex cathedra. I can never say that well. Cathedra. So this means that from the chair is what the term means of Peter. In his official capacity as supreme pastor and teacher of all Christians. So the Pope must be speaking literally from the chair of Peter first. Second, he must be defining a doctrine. So he cannot be in the seat of Peter and saying something that's not related to what the church teaches. Like he can't be in the seat of Peter and giving a weather forecast. That's not infallible because a weather forecast is not related to the dogma. Number three, the doctrine must confirm. I think that's what I just said. The doctrine must confirm faith and morals, and it must be defining. So defining means that, well, it has to have a definition, sort of like this is what we mean by the Blessed Mother was assumed into heaven. This is the teaching. This is how we're defining it. And I'm in the seat of Peter, and this teaching concerns faith and morals, which means all Catholics, and four, that all Catholics are being binded to believe this teaching. That is from the chair, is defining the teaching, is concerning faith and morals, and is binding upon all Catholics, which means we're obliged to believe it. Those are the four conditions. So Peter saying something like, and he wasn't, and Christ has not had yet came back from the dead. He has not risen, so he's not Pope at this time. But say he was, and say he made a mistake, and say he was very protective of Jesus and said, no, Jesus, you can't die. You can't go away. That's not a teaching. First, he's not in the seat of Peter. Second, he's not defining the doctrine. Three, it's not concerning faith and morals and wasn't binding upon anyone. He's experiencing emotions. In the same way, we could say, okay, he was not yet at this time in Rome, so he was not the bishop of Rome, but he was the head of the church when Peter confronted him about this issue. But again, this is his just personal emotions, maybe his feelings, maybe his lack of judgment at this time when he's favoring the Jews. But he wasn't in the seat of Peter. He didn't define a doctrine that you had to favor the Jews. It didn't concern faith or morals, and it wasn't binding upon the whole church. So Gendron doesn't even know what papal infallibility is, yet he's trying to explain here through scripture alone that Peter was not infallible. This is what you call a straw man. Straw man. Peter's mistakes actually make the case stronger, I think, that he is who the Catholic Church believes he is, because Christ chose to build his church on a man who was weak, a man who was emotional and impulsive and imperfect. That's grace. That's divine wisdom. So no, Christ did not build his church upon Peter's perfect confession. He built it upon Peter himself. And as Christ prays for him later on, Christ prays before he goes and he's crucified, before he's arrested. He says, I will pray that you will go back, and I will pray that you will strengthen your brothers. So Jesus prayed for Peter to be the source of unity for his brothers. And he's the one who Jesus gives 3 missions to pastor, tend, and to lead his sheep. When Peter says, I love you 3 times, Jesus returns and gives him 3 confessions. Do you love me? Yes. Then feed my sheep. Do you love me? Yes. Then pasture my sheep. Do you love me? Yes. Well, tend my sheep. He's the one he gives 3 missions to, the same person who he gave a new name to. This is really not that difficult. When I was converting to the Catholic Church, I thought this was the most beautiful thing. This most beautiful teaching either. Most beautiful teaching that the church was offering, aside from the whole Eucharist. That Christ did build his church upon Peter, and that church has not, and the gates have not prevailed against Peter. And even in spite of that we've had many bad popes, just objectively bad. Yet the gates of hell, the world, everyone, governments, individuals, people inside and outside the Catholic Church for 2,000 years, people like Mike Gendron, Pastor Brett Meador, All these people, Martin Luther, all these people have come along, tried to destroy the Catholic Church, and those people die, and the Catholic Church still lives. That's a miracle. Because we know the human nature of men, our tendency of men, of human beings, is just to destroy everything that we touch, and just our natural state outside of grace. We're destructive. Nothing we build ever lasts this long. We can't build something that's homogenous like this, that's one, that's not divided and lasts for 2,000 years. That's not in our human capability. We can't do something like that. That's truly divine. And this is where the fathers agree. Mike Gendron, he would say that the fathers in his video, he'll mention, the fathers were not in agreement. No one believed that Peter was the head of Universal Church. He says no one believed that until Pope Gregory the First. Again, that's a lie. And there's a price to pay on Judgment Day for lying about Christ and His church. The fact of the matter is that Irenaeus, let me bring him up here. You can see him. Irenaeus said Peter and Paul founded a church in Rome. And this is early in the 2nd century. He said Peter and Paul founded the church. And Irenaeus, he knows Peter. He knows the apostles. He knew these people. This isn't Mike Gendron coming along 2,000 years later. No, this is someone who actually knew the apostles. And he says that Saint Irenaeus says that Peter and Paul founded the church in Rome. And Peter was the first bishop. Cyprian the Carthage spoke to Peter as a source of unity, who Jesus said he would be. He says that you will go back, and I pray that you will strengthen your brothers. St. Augustine, who had a nuanced views, right? Never denied Peter's leadership. Sure, some of the fathers emphasize Peter's confession, but that doesn't exclude Peter himself. This is not mutually exclusive. It's both and is both an and, not either or. Right. So the summation here is that, one, Mike Gendron's argument is built on linguistic confusion, grammatical missteps, and theological strawmen. Jesus spoke Aramaic. Kepa is kepa. Grammar points to Peter's rock. The demonstrative pronoun is clear in sentence structure. Human fallibility does not disqualify divine doctrinal qualified infallibility. The early church affirmed Peter's role. And again, renaming signifies mission. All right. That's it. It's not that hard. All right. But again, this is just a consistent pattern you see of these Protestants. Their obsession with Catholicism leads them to lies and deception over and over and over again. It's disgusting, and there's a price to pay on Judgment Day for it. Knights of the Immaculata says, John 2nd, Jesus said, you are Simon of John. You are to be called Kepa, the rock. Yeah, it's in John as well. And it's funny that Protestants actually believe that our belief in Peter as the Pope is based upon Scripture. Well, we believe this even before we had a Bible. This is this is the tradition. This is the faith of the church. We didn't even have a Bible, agreed upon Bible, until 381 AD. We didn't have scripture and verse until the 1200s, when people put chapter and verse there. So this idea that Catholics are whole faith, Gendron says the whole structure of Catholicism is built upon Matthew 16, 18. No, we're not a people of the book. We're not Bible alone. We believed this long before we had a Bible. So they don't even understand our religion. All right, don't even understand just basic, just the most basic principles about who we are as Catholics. We're not a people of the book. Yes, the Scripture is the source of divine revelation, God's spoken word. But that's not our only source of revelation, public revelation. It's not. Random Catholic says, I was renamed by God, but He renamed me Dullard Idiot, so I don't go by that much. Yeah, it's slow bus level. It is. It is. These people, and nothing against people with diminished mental capacity, right? I'm just saying they shouldn't teach. That's all I'm saying. If the bus pulls up to your house, like you don't have to walk to the corner to get on the bus. If you're just the person who the bus pulls up to your door and waits for you to come out and get in, whatever. I'm not here to make jokes about you or make fun of you. I'm just saying that maybe you shouldn't be teaching people. That's all I'm saying. No logic. All right, let's get to the next topic. This is David O'Gray. David Gray, welcome, man. Appreciate you being here, man. The fruit of Catholicism is clear. It really is. We can sit here all day and go back and forth with these people like, Mike Gendron, go back and forth with these people. They can try to tell us that we aren't who we say we are. We can, respond to their obsession with facts. We can explain scripture better for them, help educate them like I just did. We can do that. All right. But I just think the fruits of Catholicism is just absolutely clear. You can just look at it. Just look at the fruit. Aristotle, his scientific method, Aristotle said, if you observe a thing long enough, that thing will tell you what it is. Like you just sit next to an apple tree long enough, you'll see its fruits and you'll know, oh, that's an apple tree. Things tell you what they are just by observing them. It's very easy. It's the easiest scientific method. People do this in relationships. That's why I think courtship is so beautiful, right? Instead, it's not about just dating someone a few times, right? Courtship, you spend 3 months, 6 months with a person, getting to know them over a prolonged period of time. Things tell you what they are, right? Never meet the cute girl in Vegas and get married to her on the spot. You have to spend a little more time observing the person because things tell you what they are over time. It's the best way not to make mistakes. The same can be said about Catholicism. The fruits of Catholicism is clear. If you live your life as a faithful Catholic, you'll go to heaven. That's what the evidence says. We know this because of just our abundance, our litany of saints in heaven. Canonized saints who to this day, you can ask for them to pray for you and miracles will happen. One of the saints is recently canonized just yesterday, Saint Carlo Acutis. He had 2 miracles that were confirmed. The first miracle was the Brazilian boy, a young boy named Matheus Viana from Campo Grande, Brazil. He had a condition. He was born with a rare congenital pancreatic disorder that caused severe vomiting and malnutrition. In 2013, during a prayer service, Matheus touched a relic, a t-shirt stained with Carlo's blood. The outcome? His symptoms vanished almost immediately, and he began eating normally, and medical scans showed a fully restored pancreas. A Vatican verdict declared instantaneous, complete, and lasting, scientifically inexplainable. The second miracle, a recovery of a Costa Rican student. This is the miracle that led to his canonization. Valeria Valverde, a 21-year-old university student in Florence, Italy. Condition: suffered traumatic brain injury in a bicycle accident. Prognosis was grim. Event that led to the prayer. Her mother prayed at Carlo's tomb in Assisi on July 8th, 2022. The outcome: that same day, Valeria began breathing on her own. Within days, she regained movements and speech. CT scans later showed the hemorrhage had vanished. Vatican verdict: recognized Carlo's second miracle in May 2024, paving the way for his canonization. That's Carlo Acutis. That's the fruit of Catholicism. The fruits of Catholicism is clear. Protestantism, their fruits is also clear. We have been observing Protestantism for 500 years. 500 years, over 500 years. 500 and what is it now? 508 years? Right. 508 years we've been observing Protestantism. We kind of know what it is by now, right? We kind of see it. It leads to division, confusion. Every country that Protestant has become the predominant religion is trash now. It's atheistic. It doesn't believe in truth. It's very secular. It's very socialist, very demonically liberal. Every country that has spread to and has taken over. Confusion, division. Protestant countries always the first that legalize evil, whether it's free will divorce, abortion, whatever. It's just trash. Everywhere it spreads division, confusion. It also spreads Satanism. That's what it does. Here's the fruit of Protestantism.
But performing gender as a daily task, I would argue, is a learned cultural trait to which we have all been exposed. As understandings of drag have changed throughout history, perhaps drag today could be defined as that which threatens the already fragile and arbitrarily constructed framework for gender performance that is necessary to maintain power dynamics. Conversely, it could also be that from the moment we are born, and perhaps even before that, when families gather to reveal the sex organs of their child, that the drag show begins. The blue confetti falls and the pink smoke clears, and there's a mad dash to project cultural and societal expectations of gender performance onto that child. These are learned behaviors that can be shaped either through shame or affirmation based on a perceived correct performance.
Yeah, that's the fruit of Protestantism. Right here, you have this person who has a whole church, Reverend Brooke Dooley, goes by Brooke Bottom, right? A trans. I don't know what their biological thing is. I don't know if it's a man posing as a woman posing a woman with a beard, or a man putting on woman face with a beard. I don't know what's going on here, but this is the fruit of Protestantism. Division, confusion, and Satanism. So Mike Gendron is a coward. Right? Rather than just trying to fix his own house, trying to fix Protestantism and all the demonic stuff we see going on there. Rather than fix his own house, he wants to focus on Catholics. He's a coward. I hate punks like this. Catholicism has the fruit that we can have a good judgment day if we just believe what the church teaches. But he doesn't want to go speak to Muslims, put his life on the line. He doesn't want to go speak to atheists. No, he wants to speak to poorly catechized Catholics. That's who he wants to reach. He's weak. He's a punk. He's a coward. He's not real. He's fake. Can't stand people like that. Can't stand it. But I guess while we're on the whole Skittle topic of these whatchamacallits, they call them trans. They call them whatchamacallits. Yeah, it's like a candy, right? Whatchamacallit. And these Skittles. I guess while we're on the topic, I guess we should go ahead now and just hop into what happened at the Vatican over leading up to September 6th. So let's get into that. I have a quick break here. Let me take a quick water break, and I will be right back.
From war into the world, blessings and peace, liturgical light in a cultural space, cutting through the clutter It's David L. Gray in pursuit of truth, the Dominican way. It's David L. Gray.
It's David L. Gray. It's David L. Gray.
It's David L. Gray. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. From war into the world, blessings and peace, liturgical light in the cultural space, cutting through the clutter. It's David L. Gray in pursuit of truth, the Dominican way. It's David L. Gray.
It's David L. Gray. It's David L. Gray.
It's David L. Gray.
Yeah.
Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please.
David Gray back with you. Let's get into this.
From war into the
Now, I didn't
world.
I really didn't address this when the whole thing came out. Well, first of all, I only like to do videos once a week, just live stream on Monday. It's not our preference just to keep coming back at you and like keep talking, right? And I think that's really representative of what the Christian life should be like. We should spend more time praying and listening to God than speaking, right? So I don't like to keep making live streams and videos. Right? I like to make one live stream on Monday, cut it up a few times, maybe come back on another day for an interview or, if something like crazy happens. I didn't think this was crazy at all, what happened in the Vatican with the Skittles. I don't think it's crazy because I talked about it by the way back in January when this whole thing was happening. So I really didn't have anything new to say. No one has taken the time even to ask, what is this whole thing even going to look like? What's the upside to this? No one has even I don't think really asked that question. Have you seen gay pride parades? Have you seen these things? You're inviting these people who don't know how to behave in public, don't know how to behave around children, to come to the Vatican and wave their gay flags everywhere, up and down Rome, into the Vatican. Really, we're going to have these demonic pride flags up in the Vatican, just waving around everywhere. My gosh, I just hope the wrath of God just comes down on September 6th upon whatever's going on in the Vatican. Whatever the wrath of God is at that moment, whatever he wants to do. If he wants to do Sodom and Gomorrah again, that whole thing, make it happen. Because this is embarrassing. It's demonic. It's a shame. It's a scandal. It's disgusting. That's what it is. No one's taking the time to ask, what will this look like in the media? How is this going to affect the spiritual life of Catholics? How this is going to set people back? How this is going to get people People are already on the flux. Man, I really should become Catholic, but man, there's some weird things here. People have problems with people. Oh man, this really just confirms everything that they've heard bad about the Catholic Church, the sexual deviance, the child molestation, largely usually at the hands of people who are sexual perverts, gay, homosexual, have these tendencies. I mean, this just confirms everything that's bad about the Catholic Church. No one's even taken the time to really think about what this day will look like. Yeah, that's 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 what I said back all the way in January. I said what was going to happen, and it happened. And I said a lot more things in the video. I was quite prophetic. It's like really one of my really one of my most inspired works I've ever done. All right. Okay, I was probably wrong about the September 6th thing. Right. I was hoping that maybe Sodom and Gomorrah would just happen. We just burn the whole thing down. That didn't happen. So I wasn't 100% with my prophecy, but everything else I said in the video was true. Even the stuff I said later on in the video, right? So you go check that out. I think I posted it recently. You go to my YouTube channel and you go to post, and I posted it. I reposted it. So you can check it out there. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time searching for it, right? A very prophetic video. Very inspired, I would say. So I didn't really have anything new to say. Everything I said in January actually happened. Take a look.
This is Katie Matt with the Remnant newspaper. I just spent the last 5 hours, attending an LGBTQ pilgrimage to St. Peter's Basilica. As you can imagine, it was incredibly difficult seeing that go down in such a sacred place, the heart of the city, and also incredibly sad that these people, no one's telling them the truth, that they're coming here and they're coming in what they think is love, and it's a complete distortion of love, and it's just heartbreaking to see. There was so much disrespect in the altar, the throne, the silence was completely broken. The sacrileges that occurred, it was just completely horrendous. It was an awful sight to see. Not a fun way to spend your afternoon. On the bright side, I did talk to several of the attendees after the pilgrimage, and from what I can tell, I heard several people tell me that yesterday at the Vigil Mass, Pope Leo neglected to mention the 1,300 LGBTQ attendees during his homily. Apparently he mentioned a bunch of the other groups that were coming today. There were a lot of pilgrimages to the Basilica today, but that's one specific group that he somehow failed to mention, which for 1,300 people seems like a bit of an oversight if it's unintentional. Again, this is hearsay. I'm hearing it from the LGBT community, so we'll see. But that is a sign, I think, to be hopeful. In addition, I had several people complain to me how disgraceful it was that this event was taken off of the Vatican calendar, the Vatican official calendar. Apparently it had been up until a few weeks ago, a few months ago, and then just recently was taken down. Again, this is hearsay. I really can't say whether it's true or not, but I do think that this could be a reason to be hopeful. So yeah, walking away from this afternoon, I think definitely my heart's just full of sadness for these people that were not telling them the truth, that were letting them live this way. It truly is incredibly sad to see that happening, especially in such a sacred heart. To see that sacrilege in the church is just incredibly sad. That was my afternoon.
Yeah, nothing. Everything that I expected, you expected probably, happened. Desecration, sacrilege, gay pride parade in the Vatican. Right? It wasn't, people calling this whole Skittle thing a pilgrimage. It was not a pilgrimage. Right? You've been around pilgrimages, and you've been to parties. You've been to parades. You may have seen a gay pride parade, right? So there's a distinction between pilgrimages and partying and gay pride parades. It is. I went to the first time I went to Lourdes was during the pilgrim of military people, right? It's called PMI. I forget what the I is for. But it's when a lot of different militaries from around the world, they descend upon lords for a celebration. They call it a pilgrimage, it's in the name, but at nighttime, anything but. Anything but. It's a lot of revelry. A lot of revelry. Because you have a lot of young people from Italy there. And a lot of young people from different militaries. And they're just having a really good time. Maybe it's wholesome. All right. I'm not out there. I was in a hotel, the wife and I, when we heard it, and we came in a little bit late. We saw the starting of it, and we saw the next day. A lot of people tired, right? So it's a distinction between a pilgrimage, partying, gay pride parade. So this is not a pilgrimage that we saw from the Skittles. This was an invasion.
È la prima volta che vengo e niente, vengo con un gruppo del Reggio Emilia, è la prima volta e speriamo che di qua a 20 anni.
I mean, just look at that Skittle. And that's what I said in my video. That what are you gonna have? You're gonna have these pride flags up in the Vatican? This guy brings in a demonic cross into the Vatican, processing in with it. That's what we're doing. We knew this was going to happen. I see reports about a lot of people from the pilgrimage, that day. Don't know how many of the Skittles, heard there's a lot of people went to confession. That's fine. Right. But it's wild to me that just the lack of decency and decorum and reverence shown towards Christ in his church. The idea that there was not even one policing this outside of these churches, saying, no, you're not going to bring that in. Why not? They won't let women enter in some of these places if their shoulders are out. You can't enter in these holy sites dressed inappropriately as a woman or a man. But they let in a pride flag? They let all this demonic stuff in? And that really goes to show a point I also made in a previous video. The point I go to show that I'm tired of this group of people being treated as if though they're special because they have some sort of just sexual malfunction going on in their brain. Because they're gender confused. Because they look down in their pants, they don't know what that is. I don't know what to do with this. Because they get sexually turned on, aroused by the same gender. Or by two genders sometimes, some of them. Men who wants to play and poop, stick their business in poop. Women who want to play scissors. They treat these people like they're special because they have a sexual disorder. Your sexual disorder doesn't make you special. It just means you have a condition that needs help. That's not special. They treat these people as if though their sexual inclination to sin, it somehow should be treated on a higher level than other people have inclinations to sin. Thieves, adulterers, murderers, rapists, pedophiles, I don't know, blasphemers, people who mistreat their parents, people who dishonor the Sabbath. Why is just this sexual disorder that's under the category of adultery? Why is it being treated as if though it's disgusting? I'm just really tired of these people being so privileged, get to do anything they want to do. People walking on eggshells around them. Just don't get it. How they get to walk in with a pride flag, but a woman can't walk in with shoulders out? Why do they get treated special when they're not? They get to do anything that they want to do. And then Pope Leo meets with, you know, the king of the Skittles. James Martin. Right? And you've seen the picture floating around, social media. The James Martin posted on his, social media accounts. I haven't made a video about James Martin in a long time. You know why? I don't make videos about James Martin anymore. Simply because I realize what James Martin is trying to do.
Crockett, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
I realize what he's trying to do. When he posts, James Martin, he's a homosexual guy. And like a lot of homosexuals, he needs attention. He needs a lot of attention. And he's just attention whore. And like I said, like a lot of homosexual men are like this. They crave attention, they need attention, they thrive on it. So for years, what James Martin has been doing on social media accounts, he just posts things to get attention. Typically from traditional Catholics. He likes to troll them. He likes to try to trigger people. And it tends to be traditional Catholics tend to get triggered by James Martin. They have been for over a decade. Just constantly in this cycle of just responding and reacting to things that James Martin does. But he's a child. He's just a child craving for attention. And the best thing that you do for attention, a craving child, is not to give them attention, it's to ignore them. And of course, they'll act out, they'll do something more dramatic. You can expect that. That's what they do. No, I'm not getting attention I want. I'll do something crazy. They'll do it. That's James Martin. He's a child, a gay child at that. So he's very happy to post his picture with Pope Leo, just as he did with Pope Francis. Same type of picture. And yes, it does validate him. It does give him standing in the community. It does add some sort of level of it gives him some sort of cachet. I met with the Pope. I'm the Pope's friend. This whole type of thing. And so that happened. And so throughout the whole social media thing, a couple last week or a couple weeks before that or whatever this happened, you've seen all these videos come out, traditional Catholics boohooing, calling foul and all these things because James Martin triggered them. It's like just a common thing. It has been happening for over a decade. Now, that being said, I would say, is this like a nothing burger? Like this whole thing, like this Skittle invasion of the Vatican, Pope Leo meeting with the leaders of the Skittle coalition, James Martin, the nun, and all these other people. Is it a complete nothing burger, or is there something here? It is disappointing. I think. Sometimes I would tend to be critical of the radical traditionalists here and their obsession with being triggered by James Martin. Traditionally I would say, well, man, those radical trads, man, here they go again with the grift. they're trying to paint Pope Leo as if though he's Pope Francis, and they're trying to raise money, they're trying to divide the church, they're hating on the Pope, they're doing the whole thing again. Sometimes I would say that, but sometimes a clock is right twice a day. So I think there is something here. And the reason why I think there's something here, not because, we should be surprised that Pope Leo XIV is turning out to be Francis 2.0. I don't think anybody's surprised by that he's, with a few improvements here and there, he's quiet about what he's doing. He's not on airplanes saying weird things. He seems to be more intelligent I say more of, he seems to be more of a theologian. But other than that, his own brother said he's going to be Francis 2.0. Everything that we're seeing so far, he's Francis 2.0. And that's, again, not a surprise. I'm not going to boo-hoo that. Most popes over the last 2,000 years have been liberal. Most have leaned left. They have. That's a fact. So it is what it is, right? It doesn't affect me emotionally in any way because I really don't care who the Pope is. It doesn't affect my life, what the Pope says or what the Pope does. It really doesn't. It doesn't affect my life because I'm going to have my own judgment day. The Pope is going to have his. So why do I care? I have enough to be worried about by my own salvation, working about my own salvation. I don't have time to worry about a Pope. I really don't. I got my own stuff. And I'll have my own judgment day. He'll have his. So on that way, again, it's nothing. But it is disappointing. I would say that. And I would say it's disappointing without even having expectations. I don't have any expectations of the Pope. It's whatever. But it is a bit disappointing because it means that Pope Leo is either, for doing this whole thing, meeting with the Skittle Coalition, not shutting down their activities, allowing James Martin to use him in this way. It's disappointing because it either means that Pope Leo is either dumb, he's a deceiver, or he's a demon. Those are the options here. He's either dumb, a deceiver, or a demon. He's dumb if he didn't know that this would happen. He has the authority to shut this whole thing down. The Jesuit church where the Skittle group was meeting, he could have told them no. Not even personally, because since some secretary said, no, you're not going to host that event. Popes are fine to do this with the traditional Latin Mass and other things. You're not going to do it. He could have shut the whole thing down. He's dumb if he didn't know this is going to be a gay pride parade. That people are going to march in. Like we've never seen these people when they're all together. That we don't know how they behave. He's dumb if he didn't know that this whole thing was going to turn into an invasion in the gay pride parade. That they weren't just going to march into the Vatican like this. And he didn't shut it down. He didn't station, I don't know, the Swiss guard outside and police people and not let them bring their Skittle stuff into Vatican grounds. He's dumb if he didn't know this whole thing would cause a scandal, just like the Michael Matt's daughter of the Riveted video that you saw, the whole scandal, the hurt that she was feeling. He's dumb if he didn't know that was going to happen. The whole scandal that this would cause, the embarrassment. People going to the Vatican for the first time, people who are interested in Catholicism, now seeing this trash. And don't give me that crap that the Pope is like Jesus and that he meets with sinners and tax collectors. Don't give me that crap. When people met with Jesus, when they encountered Jesus, they changed. They became different people. It was a conversion opportunity. None of these popes are meeting with people when there's conversion. Popes are not evangelists. They're politicians. Everyone they meet with leaves just how they are. Whether it's a president, whether it's James Martin. Popes are politicians, first of all. That's how they behave. That's the outcome. That's the fruit that we see. We don't see conversion. We see political meetings. If James Martin left this meeting with Pope Francis and Pope Leo, changed, stopped being gay, stopped doing gay stuff, I would say hallelujah. We finally have a pope that reminds me of Jesus. People are meeting, tax sinners and tax collectors are meeting with him, and they're changing. There's conversion. That doesn't happen because they're politicians. They are. They act like politicians. That's the fruit. So don't give me that. So yeah. So either he's dumb, he didn't know any of this stuff was going to happen, and he did it, or he's a demon. He did these things knowing that they would happen, and he poured gas on the fire. That's an option. The third option is that he's a deceiver. He knew, and he just flamed innocent. He knew all these things were going to happen. He's very intelligent, so he knew all these things were going to happen, and he did nothing. Completely apathetic about the whole thing. Went forward with it and poured gas on the fire. Those are the options. Pope Leo XIV. The fruits of what we've seen so far is that he's either dumb, a demon, or a deceiver. And it's very disappointing to see this whole thing. It was. It was. And you just can't mock God, Christ, and his church for very long. There's a price to pay for that. I don't care who you are. You could be Mike Gendron or you could be Pope Francis. There's always a price to pay for mocking and allowing people to mock Christ and his church. This is David O'Gray. And you really need to keep your kids off of social media. And TikTok in particular, I guess, is the most popular ones with the kids right now. Just get them off of it. Especially if your child is, I would say, a person who's just easily just a follower. You should know these things about your child. If they don't have original thoughts, they tend to follow people. They're very needy of friends. They get depressed. They don't know how to have fun by themselves. They don't know how to entertain themselves and be comfortable with themselves. If your child has any of those characteristics, follower, no original thoughts, and doesn't know how to needy of friends and doesn't know how to really be comfortable with themselves and be alone, that your child doesn't need to be on social media at all, because this is the type of stuff that happens.
Cops swoop in after a prank ends in tragedy. A man believed to be the suspected killer leaves a house with his hands raised. Police say a bunch of youngsters were playing the notorious Ding Dong Ditch around 11 p.m. in this quiet neighborhood in Houston. Then cops say the homeowner came out of this house with gun drawn and opened fire.
One of the boys, who was 11 years old, was shot in the back.
Shooting just occurred for a little boy that was shot.
The child and the group of kids were able to run a block away, and he collapsed in the street.
Julian Guzman died in the hospital. His devastated mom says he was affectionate, loving, always smiling.
Gonzalo Leon?
Yes, Your Honor.
Today, the homeowner, identified as 42-year-old Gonzalo Leon Jr., has been charged with murder. Neighbor Allison Gatz says she saw the youngsters that afternoon.
I advised them that they were trespassing, and whatever it is they were doing,
they shouldn't be doing.
Cops with flashlights combed the streets for clues. As daylight came, officers used a metal detector in the search. Ding Dong Ditch is a prank in which kids ring a doorbell, then run away. Social media is flooded with Ding Dong Ditch videos. Some do the door kick challenge. One Arizona family was forced to move after their house was hit 18 times.
Their house was targeted to the point that they didn't feel safe enough to live in their own home.
Now a stupid prank ends in heartbreak.
Yeah, and this is a story, you may not heard a lot about, just because I think there wasn't really an opportunity to racialize it. I don't think that's one reason why you didn't hear a whole lot about it. It wasn't a white homeowner and some black kids were knocking on the door and he came out and popped them, or a black homeowner. I mean, you definitely would have heard about that story. A black homeowner, and he comes out and shoots a couple, little white kids in the head or something like that, pops them. Nah. So there was no really opportunity to racialize this whole thing. I think everyone involved in this whole thing, I think they're Latino. And so it's a quiet story in the news. But it's a sad story. When I was a kid, we played this game. We called it in Warren, Ohio, we called it a different name than this that I'm not going to say. But it is a game that it's an old game that kids play. I don't know who started it. Whoever started it was dumb. And we did. And for us to play this game is dumb. It's rude, it's disrespectful, and it's just not good behavior. But now, with the prevalence of, a lot of people have guns, it's legal in a lot of states. People have a lot of guns. People have gun licenses. This story is probably not going to end well for the homeowner, because I think he wasn't really reacting. I think he came out the house, he pops the kids off his property, he sort of chases them down. So I don't think it's going to probably end well for him. It doesn't seem like the self-defense. It doesn't seem like it was threatening. But this isn't the first time this has happened with this Ding Dong Ditch trend. And this isn't the first trend on TikTok that kids have done that has led to death, has led to harm. So, TikTok, I think is popularity to spread these bad behaviors and these trends and these social experiments is very dangerous. So make sure you are monitoring your child's social media activity. And as I said, if your child is a follower, needs friends, has no original thoughts, and is incapable of entertaining themselves, and always needs other people, your child should not be on social media. It's not built for children with those type of those needs and those weaknesses. It's not built for that at all. It's the most dangerous place a child who has those weaknesses should be. So, sad events, but it's going to keep happening on TikTok and whatever next social media is trending. This is David O'Grady. This is another story. So, and this happened, I believe, in North Carolina. So there's a Ukrainian woman who came here to, I guess, have a better life, escape her country. And she gets on this train and ends up being killed by a man. Of course, there are some people on social media and media altogether who, anytime they see a race car, they're happy to play it, right? So, of course, this is turning into, this black guy killed a white girl. Black people are dangerous. Stay away from them. This whole thing, the stats, whatever. And it's, it's weird. I think, I talk about this a lot. It's crazy. I don't like it when, we have another school shooting And people say the same thing they say about young white men. Oh, they're school shooters. They're assassins of presidents. They're kidnappers, pedophiles, whatever. Stereotypical behaviors of groups of people are never conducive to what's really going on. What's going on is the evil, is sin. All right. And no group of people own sin at all. But that's how this is being spun. But I want to play this video just as Catholics, as Christians. I watched this video earlier and I was just kind of disturbed about what was going on here. It looks like a person who may have been just demonically possessed. They look very, very troubled. I mean, here they are on a train, and just notice they're walking back and forth. They're shaking their head. I don't know if this person is having a bad day, feels like they don't have any hope, feels completely lost, just wants to go back to prison. I think this person's been in and out of the judicial system many times, 14 or something like that. So I don't know if they're just ready to go back, ready just to crash out, do something that will take them back for good. Or they're just struggling, or it could be both. It could be and both. Just struggling with a demon. Now, I would probably say the latter here in this case. I would definitely lean that way. Just looking from the time I spent in prison hospice, ministering to men on death row. You just kind of see when a person is just really struggling with a demon.
Please exit right.
And you can usually tell just by their conflicted movements. And you can see with this guy. And here's the young lady who's unfortunately going to lose her life this day. And pray for her soul. So she sits there in front of him. Right. And she just got to this country, and I don't, and it's just a lack of discernment, just some sort of innocent trust there. You have to discern your environments. You just have to. There's people in public transportation that you sit in front of. There's people in public transportation that you sit behind. And sometimes on public transportation, the best thing to do is just to stand, not sit down at all. That's just a fact. Right. And I don't care where you are. You can be in the United States, you could be here in Germany. On trains, wherever I'm traveling, I could be in Germany, I could be in the UK, I could be in Italy. Unless I'm in the back of the train, in the back of the subway, in the back of the bus, where I can see everyone, or I'm sitting in a way that the bus is situated, or transportation is situated where my back is to the window, I don't sit down, I stand. Those are only two times I sit down, when I'm facing with my back towards the window, or I'm all the way in the back. Other than that, I'm standing. I let my wife sit, but I'm standing right next to her. Right. But just like a discernment, she doesn't know what's going on. I would never sit in front of this guy. His skin color doesn't even matter. He could be a white guy with a hoodie. I'm not sitting in front of him. Not. Maybe behind him. But in this situation, I'm in the back of the bus. The back of the train. He seems to be triggered that she sat there. Now he's like really struggling. You can just tell.
Please stand clear. Doors are closing.
And you'll see it more so when he stands up. In a minute from now, he's gonna. So he pulls out, looks like a knife now. Puts it in his hand, and see he struggles. He puts it in his hand, He's sitting there contemplating for a while. He puts it in his hand, and then he puts his hand back in on his face. All right, he struggles one more time with the decision he's about to make, and then he does it. Like, should I? Shouldn't I? Crap, I'm going to do it. And then he does it. And she loses her life that day. So, just a very sad event. Unfortunately, it's not rare. Happens everywhere. It's evil. People kill people on public transportation. Yeah, I just think the guy looks to be possessed by a demon. Right? And yeah. But for a person like that that's been in and out of the judicial system, never was given opportunity for true rehab, clinical support, psychiatry, right? Now they just shuffle these people in and out. Obviously, a person is deeply troubled if they're in and out of the system. They're always getting into trouble, right? So, of course, I don't believe in killing the Imago Dei. Like, you don't kill the image of God. Like, why would you kill someone? So, no, he shouldn't be given a death penalty. That's crazy. But if a person is in and out of the system like this, they need to be put away for a while. I have no problems with just long-term imprisonment and minimum time, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. And not just throwing people in the prison warehouse, but giving people like the psychotherapy that they need and not just medicating them. Because, when guys get out of prison, in jail, they're medicated in there, and then they get out, there's no medication because they can't afford it. There's no health care. They just go back to the same behavior. So medicating people in prison and jail isn't the solution either. And again, it's the fruits of the tree. And these people having fruits in prison, bad fruit in prison, they're harming people, they're engaged in prison behaviors, gambling, sex, things like this that they're doing in prison, breaking rules, then there's no reason just because your term limit is up that you should necessarily get out, right? So I think sometimes prison terms should be extended if there's no evidence that of true reform, and so that's another problem there. But this is a very, very sad event. This is David O'Gray. It's interesting to see that Florida has, they're moving towards banning all vaccines. I thought this was a fascinating story last week.
I don't have that right. Your body is a gift from God. What you put into your body.
And this is the Florida, I guess, Secretary of Health of Human Services. And so he's speaking about the move that they're engaging in Florida of banning mandatory vaccines for children.
What you put into your body is because of your relationship with your body and your God. I don't have that right. Government does not have that right. They want you to believe they have that right. And unfortunately, they've been successful. Pretty much every state has them. It's wrong. It's immoral. They do not have the right to tell you what you put in your body. They don't have the right to tell you what your kids have to put in your body. They do not have the right. Do not give it to them. Take it away from them. And we're going to be starting that here in Florida.
Yeah, so Florida's getting rid of mandatory vaccines. I think it's fascinating that they're using the pro-abortion argument, your body, your choice, to push this through. It should be something that every liberal should be on board with. It's my body, my choice. I can, even though that is not an argument to kill a child in your womb because the child in your womb is not your body, but bodily autonomy the argument itself. It's fascinating that Florida is using that as a way to push this, vaccine should be a choice. And I think even theologically, when we look at vaccines as Catholics, we say, okay, are mandated vaccines, or is it the common good? Right? Because I guess there could be an argument to be made that if there is a vaccine that does save lives, say the world's population is being decimated because human beings are coming in contact with each other, and somehow we're passing a virus that is killing each other. And the only way to stop that would be to mandate for government to mandate that everyone takes a vaccine to stop the death. People say, well, maybe that's the common good. But as Catholics, we would say, well, no, that's still not the common good because we're not free. Right. So under no circumstance could there be a government mandate that could respect that is for the common good, because it'd be contrary to human freedom. So humans have to be free to make their own choices, even if that choice is bad. So you look at law. So laws like that, you shouldn't murder people, you shouldn't steal. Those are things that are mandated. Society recognizes that you're free to murder anyone you want to. You're free to steal anything you want to. But what the law is saying, what's common good, is that we should have penalties in place so that these behaviors are mitigated and minimized. Right? So there's consequences to just your free choices. There's consequences to it. So a mandated vaccine is always contrary to the common good because it takes away human freedom. So it's going to be interesting to see how this turns out. I grew up in a world, right, all my life where my girls, my kids were in school. We always vaccinated them because that's just what, if you wanted them in public school, that's just what you had to do. And we just went along with it without even really thinking. So it's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing turns out, how natural immunity plays out in Florida with measles and smallpox and these things like that. So, and so vaccines that, of course, I'm not against vaccines. I think I'm against vaccines that are somehow associated with child murder and were used on aborted fetuses. So that's what I'm against. Vaccines that aren't associated with that, I don't think I'm necessarily against. I recently got a shingles vaccine because I'm 50 something. I don't know how old I am anymore, but so yeah, so I researched it, see how it was created and everything like that, and I took it. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, I'm mostly fascinated by the idea that they're using bodily autonomy as the argument to get away with this. All right, get the last thing coming up here. Jasmine Crockett. We're going to talk about code switching. A lot of people are confused by Jasmine Crockett, representative from Texas, how she changes her voice, and sometimes she uses what people are calling a black scent and things like that. I'm going to explain to you exactly what's going on here and things that you may not know if you're not from or familiar with this tendency or this habit or this practice in the Black community. This is David Gray. I'll be right back.
To the world, blessings and peace, liturgical light in a cultural space, cutting through the clutter is David L. Gray, in pursuit of truth the Dominican way. From warring to the world, blessings and peace, liturgical light in a cultural space, cutting through the clutter is David L. Gray, in pursuit of truth the Dominican way.
It's David L. Gray, it's David L. Gray. Hit that like, share and sub if you please. Hit that like, share and sub if you please. David L. Gray, it's David L. Gray. Hit that like, share and sub if you please. Hit that like, share and sub if you please.
From warring to the world, blessings and peace, liturgical light in a cultural space, cutting through the clutter is David L. Gray, in pursuit of truth the Dominican way.
if you please. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. David L. Gray. It's David L. Gray. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please. Hit that like, share, and sub if you please.
From war into the world, lessons in peace. Liturgical light in a cultural space. Cutting through the clutter, it's David L. Gray. In pursuit of truth, the Dominican way.
Welcome back. It's David O'Gray. Let's get to this last story. A lot of people are a little kind of fascinated by Jasmine Crockett. There are a lot of videos just made about the crazy things that she says. She does a really good job marketing herself. Probably a horrible job as a legislator. Really great job being able to market herself. And she's done really a phenomenal job with that. Just as a sophomore representative out of the red state of Texas. And of course, she's a Democrat. But people wonder how this happens.
State representative, and now you are running for Congress. Why is that, and what are your priorities?
Absolutely. First of all, it's good to see you in the new year. You know, no one could have told me that when I went down to Austin, now it looks like a little bit over a year ago, that I would be running for Congress. It's just not what my plan was. But what I've always decided is that I would step up when there was a need. And so I fully anticipated that our Congresswoman would serve out at least one more term, if not more than one term.
So that's the Jasmine Crockett that we met. Looks like a young lady, attractive, articulate, beautiful smile, conducts herself as you expect a lady would. And this is the Jasmine Crockett here that we've been getting to see more and more often.
Because these people, they are crazy, because they always talk about how Christian they is. Yeah, I don't know how many of them on that side are getting divorced because they getting caught up sleeping with their co-workers, staffers, interns, all the things. Yeah, you ain't got to believe me. Just go Google. You'll find some of it. I'm telling you. And the wives is being messy and petty. They putting it in the divorce. I'm like, ooh, that's got to be true, because your lawyer would know that they going to lose it if they.
Yeah, so a lot of people are just like confused. Like, how does this happen? Is she doing a bit here? Is she, I mean, what's going on? How do you go from, what we saw earlier to that, and then,
Thank you so
back
much.
to this?
And first of all, let me just say that we are standing before you. We're having this conversation because of the oversight Democratic leadership. And so I want to reiterate that it's the Democratic leadership on oversight that has truly been able to move this forward. I'm sure many of you don't recall, but we were sent home early to try to avoid being.
I mean, how do you get from there to this?
Because these people, they are crazy, because they always talk about how Christian they is.
How Christian they is. So, people think that, they see this with Kamala, they see that with Barack Obama. They see this change, right? This way that these black politicians, the way they speak around all people versus how they speak around people who, are from their community and their culture. So what this is not a black sin. This is not a grift. This is what in the black community, this is called code switching. Code switching. Code switching is the real MVP here. This is what's going on. So you never watch Jasmine Crockett in Congress and think, wait a minute, didn't she sound different in that old clip? Yeah, buddy. Welcome to the world of code switching. It's not a glitch in the matrix. It's a feature of the culture. See, people outside of that community hear this and go, is that an accent? Is that a black accent? Is she doing a bit? No, Karen. She's not auditioning for a Tyler Perry movie. She's just switching gears like a Tesla in sports mode. Code switching is the LeBron James of communication in the black community. It is versatile, it's strategic, and always knows the room and knows the audience. You don't wear Jordans to a job interview, and you don't drop "ain't nobody got no time for that" in the Senate. No, unless you're trying to go viral. Kamala Harris does it, like I said. Barack Obama did it. Heck, even your favorite black pastor does it. It's not fake. It's fluent. It's knowing how to speak boardroom at 9 a.m. in the barbershop at 6 p.m. And let's be honest, I think all cultures do this. I think white Americans do it too. You think Colin Coward of of the sports commentary, you think he talks to his golf buddies the same way about Baker Mayfield as he does on air? No, please stop. That's code switching. We all do it. When we're around people that we're comfortable around, we all speak more casually, and we'll speak in a way that people are familiar to. People I know, all people from the South, sometimes just lose their accent when they're gone from the South for a while. When they return back home, go to the family reunion, it's all Southern twang again. So when Jasmine Talker goes from Madam Speaker, I yield the floor, to y'all got me messed up, she's not confused. She's just bilingual in culture. And that, my friends, is code switching. Black Americans do it all the time. It's someone like me who grew up in Warren, Ohio. For most of my time, not really around a lot of black people. Like, I had to change high schools just to try to be around black people, right? Because I kind of wanted, I went to all black college. I was trying to figure out, what does being black means? I really didn't know. I wasn't raised like that. And so I had to learn how to do the code switching. But what I found out is that if you don't know how to code switch and speak as the culture speaks when they're with each other, people look at you crazy. Like, you go to the barbecue, you go to the cookout, and you're speaking proper English. You're putting G's on the end of your word, and you're using your wrong pronouns and things like that. If you're not saying "what is we doing," you say "what are we doing" instead of "what is we doing." If you say how you be instead of how you are, like if using your we's, your r's, and your b's, if you're not messing that whole thing up, people are going to look at you crazy. Like, why isn't he speaking like us? He must be a coon and Uncle Tom, right? I've gotten a lot of that. So I had to learn how to speak like the culture. All right. So I'm rather good at it now. I can do it really well. And this is what Jasmine Crockett does. So no, it's not a black scent. It's code switching. It's cultural. You can't judge it. It's not a sin. It's just how the culture is. Go to any barbershop. You'll hear it in there. It's a useful skill for you to learn. But everyone shouldn't learn it because everyone shouldn't be doing it, right? So, but it's a good thing for people to know so they understand what's going on here. So next time you hear Jasmine Crockett, Barack Obama speaking like a black preacher, or Barack Obama doing his thing when he's around all black people, and Kamala Harris Obama, they're probably more like me. We didn't grow up in the culture. There's something that we learned how to do. Barack Obama learned it in Chicago. Kamala Harris learned it at Howard University in DC, right? I learned it at Central State University. This is what you learn, okay? So next time you hear them doing this, or hey, if you catch me doing it one day, you see me at the cookout for some reason. I don't know why you're there, but you see me there. And I'm speaking like that. I'm not being fake. I'm just code switching. It's a thing. All right, that's the show. Appreciate you guys coming in. I'm gonna cut this up, switch it up, dice it up, and put some cuts out for you. But I appreciate you guys hanging in for the long show, the Monday live stream. And I will catch you in the next one. Crumb says, I agree. We all adjust ourselves for different situations to the same degree. Yeah. All right. Appreciate you guys. God bless you. Blessings and peace to you and to yours. And I'll catch you in the
To the world, blessings and peace. Liturgical light in a cultural space. Cutting through the clutter, stay the L Grey. In pursuit of truth.